Hello and welcome to the Work for Change podcast. My name is Jean, and it's spelled like Jean.
And my name is John with a silent H. Thank you guys so much for coming to episode 49. This is obviously a really exciting one for us. We have Tia.
Here's
Claire.
why. Because by the time you're listening to this, Jaboy has a missus.
Yep, he's married, but no one cares about that. So, Tia Clair Toomey, she's here on the podcast, and we're super stoked. She gave us, a good amount of her time, and I think the interview is really cool. There's like tons of stuff that I've never heard of until this interview, so I think that it's gonna be really cool for you guys listening. That like if you are a fan of hers and you maybe know most of the stuff, hopefully there's some stuff in there that you don't know. But we will say, if you are watching this on YouTube, sadly, there is no video. There was a glitch, so it just didn't work out. But I mean, most of you guys are listening on the audio anyways, so we're really, really excited for you guys to listen to this. And this is one of the things that we still are just blown away that people say yes to coming on this podcast. Like these people that have come on are like literally, in our eyes, they're like the Michael Jordans of the sport, right? And so we are just so unbelievably grateful for them to take some of their time out of their day and speak to us, two random guys that just kind of enjoy CrossFit, that are nowhere near their level. And we're just really grateful.
Yeah, we're also really excited when we get to bring you guys a different voice, because then you just don't have to hear us.
Yeah, that's
the entire time.
Exactly.
So,
us ramble about random stuff.
But Tia's a great storyteller, but also has she spent like 4 years as an affiliate owner. So it's like you get the top tier CrossFit athlete, and then the like, hey, but here's how I would coach someone, and here's how. So it's super cool. I hope you guys really enjoy this episode.
All right, you guys, welcome to the interview. We are here with Tia Toomey, the 3-time fittest on earth in the whole wide world woman ever. So that's pretty cool. We're super excited. Thank you so much for just taking some time out to talk to us on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, so me and Tia we've talked a lot. I mean, this is a funny story. I messaged Tia, literally, it was right after you won your first games, and I was actually there. I was in Madison that year, and I just
cool.
I
cool.
just messaged her, just being like, oh, congratulations, not expecting any like reply or anything like that, and then she just replied like, thank you, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I wasn't expecting a reply, but we've kind of kept in contact, but then. When we were in Hawaii, we were actually able to hang out and talk a lot, and so that was really, really cool. Thanks seriously so much for coming on.
No, thanks so much for having me. And I know we've wanted to do this for a long time now, but just obviously time, everyone's schedules just don't align, and whenever I'm in the training season, it's really hectic. So I'm just so pleased that we could have done this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. So talking about training, I think like the first question that me and John were kind of thinking we wanted to kind of ask and learn about is, how did you just in general find like CrossFit style training and get into that type of training?
Well, that's a good question. So basically what happened is where I was in my life, we were living in a place called Gladstone, and I'd really kind of stopped doing all physical activity purely because I was trying to focus on earning an income. I was also trying to go to university, and I felt like, I needed to prioritize my life. So I put a back burner on anything sports related, which was practically my enjoyment. And I definitely felt like there was something missing when I did that. So I don't ever really like to call it like depression or whatever, but I definitely went through a period in my life just after I left school where I was really down and I didn't really know what I want to do. And I know Shane, he would always be like, hey, we should do this or we should do that. And I'd always just be, I guess, you could say I was negative in that respect. And Shane was starting to go back and I guess play for this local football team.
Mm-hmm.
It was a rugby union team. And in their off season, they attended a few CrossFit sessions. And one night he came home and was like, "Hey, Tia, I really think that you need to start exercising again, because I know that that's something that you enjoyed back in the day, and I think it's something that is you're really missing without realizing it." So from there, we literally I went to a CrossFit gym, the same one that Shane had gone with his teammates, and I enjoyed it when I went there, but there was just something about it that kind of made me think, I don't know, like I'm already fit. I can go running. I don't really have the financial support or the financial backing to be able to justify spending this much money on a gym membership,
Uh-huh.
So it was something for me that I was just making all these excuses up. And so I said no, like, I accepted my first free trial. And yeah, I know I sound like a cheapskate, don't I? But
No, well,
this is
it's crazy. I wasn't expecting your story to sound like so many other people's stories. Like I was expecting like me being, I guess, just like thinking I know everything. Like I was expecting you to be like, "Oh yeah, I've been an athlete. I was like already, and doing the Olympic weightlifting and crushing it, and I just decided to do CrossFit and I crushed it as well." But like the story that you're telling, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the story that you're telling is like so similar to so many people that want to get into CrossFit. Because I get the question all the time is like, I want to start CrossFit, but I can't afford it, or I don't have the money, or I don't know if it's worth it. And so I'm always like, well, just try it out and it might be worth it for you. And it's crazy that your story is the same as so many other people's story, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, no, it really was. And I only purely started doing CrossFit just to improve my fitness and also kind of help me get out of my rut. And I think Shane was kind of getting annoyed by me just moping around the house.
I just can't imagine how scary of a conversation that is to bring up. Like, hey, babe, maybe you should go to the gym.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
I know. It's kind of one of those things where, like, Shane and I, we definitely have that respect for each other where we can be very open and honest with each other, and it could come across as very brutal. But, I wouldn't want it any other way. And I think that's why it works so well with him coaching me. I'm able to tolerate him telling me what to do all the time. Don't get me wrong, like I definitely bite back every now and then, and we have our arguments and disagreements, but that's really what kind of builds us and makes us grow as people. And we've just learned so much about each other through this journey. I honestly, I can't believe that, we were able to create what originally didn't look promising initially. When I said I went to the first class, I didn't go back for 2 months because I didn't like the coach. I was like, this guy, he thinks that I can't do anything and I don't need to be surrounded by people that, don't think I can do anything. So like I really had a negative approach to this. And I hate being told that I can't do something. So when I get told that, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to prove to this person. And yeah, I kind of look back and just think, oh, I would have been, if I had to deal with myself back then, I would have been so frustrated. But, after a couple of times I bumped into the CrossFit, the owner of the CrossFit gym, and it was starting to get a little awkward. He was like, hey, you said you're going to come back and you haven't come back yet. Like, what's going on? And so I pretty much was like, just bit the bullet, signed up for a month. And by the end of that month, I was absolutely hooked. But you know what? I would never go to the class that coach, that first coached me. I would look online and see if he was coaching. And if he was coaching, I'd go to the opposite classes. So I was definitely one of those people. eventually I started understanding where he was coming from and realized he had his best interest, my best interest at his heart. But yeah, that's kind of where it all began.
That's so crazy to me. Like,
Yeah.
just like, again, like I already said it, but I was expecting it to be something completely different. And like the fact that you were looking at what coach was there, like that's another thing that a lot of people that are starting CrossFit like deal with. Like, I'm not sure if my coach is good, or like I don't like CrossFit because the coaches. I'm like, well, you have to realize coaches are just people. So like, you are gonna have some really good coaches and some really bad coaches. And I'm not saying that coach was bad or anything like that, but it's like,
No.
it really is so important with like coaches, is to understand that everyone's gonna have a different way of coaching like each person.
Definitely. And something that Shane and we always recommend to people that are asking us, like, hey, what do you recommend if, I'm someone that I consider myself fit, but I'm still not 100% confident to go to a class. Like, what should I do? I would really like to try it out. I highly recommend going and giving like 3 different gyms a go and just seeing which one suits you best, because, not every coach's methodology is going to suit everyone. So everyone has a different way of learning and feeling comfortable, and I honestly think that's probably the best way or best advice that I can kind of give.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people, well, I know for me, one of the reasons I love like fitness, I cling to it, is for the what you were talking about with like the mindset thing. Like it does, like there have been multiple times where I am just kind of down and out and bummed and whatever. And it's like just the act of like 20 minutes of sweating, or whatever, like it really does. It's not like it's not a cure-all. It doesn't fix everything, but it is like, it's almost like just getting oxygen to your brain and just kind of being like, all right, I can rethink about this issue or rethink about whatever, or I don't know. It is like, it's so good just for the brain to get that movement.
It really is. And you know what? It lets all the endorphins out whenever you're exercising. And so, of course, when you're exercising and you're putting your body under that strain, it's obviously not feeling the best. Like everyone hurts and everyone goes through it, but you don't go through it for that pain. You go through it for the satisfaction of that feeling after the workout. And it's kind of crazy. I've only just started getting back into the gym myself after the games. And like the first initial couple of days are really hard because I haven't gotten the heart rate up, and it's something that has, it takes time. So you have to reassure yourself to be patient. And oh my goodness, like it's crazy because right now I feel very unfit and it's something that I have to keep reassuring myself, hey, look, that's okay. I don't have to be super fit until my first sanction event, which is going to be in January. I know the Open is literally next week, but still, I can help use that to motivate me throughout building my fitness and just try and look in the positive side of things,
Yeah, I think that it is interesting, this whole like switch up to the schedule, especially with the Opens being, what are they, like 7 months apart this time? They were like, it was like not much time between. And I was looking at a graphic. I think it was actually something Craig posted on one of his videos, and he was saying how before, like the Opens before, athletes would have like 200 days from the end of the games to the start of the Open or something like that. And this year it's like 60 days or something like that, something crazy. Yeah. And so
it's pretty close.
Yeah. It's just, I've been wondering, and we were kind of talking about it when we were like in Hawaii. Some people, like, I wonder how many people are kind of in the same boat as you, being like, I don't feel like I'm at my fittest right now. And so like, I'm sure, are you gonna be doing the Open?
Yeah, I'll definitely do the Open. I've always done it ever since 2013. So to me, it's something important. It's not just about me; it's about the community. So it's something that I really like being a part of. But I understand that I'm not at my absolute fittest, and I have, and also Shane has ensured that like we need to have a break.
Yeah.
And like we knew going into, or obviously coming into the 2020 season, it was going to be completely different to my past years competing, purely because I haven't been training, and I've literally forced myself to have rest after the games. And I think that that's really something for me is very important, because every year after the games, I always have at least 1 month off of doing absolutely nothing, and then slowly moving the body in September, jumping into a couple of classes, just having a little bit of fun with my members. It's definitely something that, I've focused on over the past years, and I don't want to change that. So again, this year I did the same, knowing that it could potentially have a negative effect on my performance throughout the Open. But I'm trying to look at the bigger picture, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm setting myself up for a really solid season come 2020.
So since we're talking about the Open and all the changes, and that's all everyone talks about right now, is the Open
I know,
and changes.
it's like hot topic, isn't it?
I'm excited for once like this Open is done, and then now it's normal, and we like it's not this crazy new thing.
New normal. But what would you say? Like everyone had like for the 2019 season, everyone approached it kind of in a different way. It was either go team, it was go all out without, head first without really knowing what's going on. There was some like, let me sit back, let me watch this unfold, and then I'm going to make my move. What was you and Shane's like strategy going in like into the 2019 season with absolutely zero answers or rule book or what was your strategy then?
Well, it's kind of crazy because so 2013 I literally was learning CrossFit. Like I actually signed up the weekend of the CrossFit, signed up to CrossFit at my local gym the weekend the Open started, and I didn't know what the Open was. It was crazy. So I remember, and this is the only Open workout that I clearly remember, but it was 13.1, and it had the snatches where you would increase throughout, but you also had the burpee ring touch. And so that I was, obviously I didn't place very well in regards to like other years, but that was something that was it was something that like I'll always remember, and I just had a lot of fun with. The next couple of years, 2014, I was really motivated to try and make regionals because no one in my gym had made it previously, and so that was all I kind of really desired. Now in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, I was an affiliate owner. So whenever the Open came around, my priority was simply to just get all my members through the Open and ensure that they were having a really great experience. And it's crazy to think last year was the first year that I was actually able to solely focus on the Open. And I had Matt Fraser there with me training as well. And so it was so different. And I really, really enjoyed it because I didn't have to worry about, different kind of heats to organize, Friday night lights, just like all the kind of different things that I would do for our affiliate. And I've actually thought about this a couple of times now because people have asked like, oh, what was the difference between, last Open and the Opens before? And for me, I really enjoyed it. It was something that, I was able to focus on. Now, this Open is going to be even different, more different as well, because next week, while the Open 20.1 is going to get announced, Shane and I will be in the air heading back to Australia for the whole Open.
Oh,
So, like we're going to be in different locations throughout the Open, experiencing different communities, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. What, without giving away your secret sauce or anything, what do you guys have a strategy?
How do we make it to the games? Okay,
Yeah,
that's what we want to know.
That's what we really want to know.
Well, let me just tell you what the formula is, and then everyone can make it.
Great.
Yeah, we just
If only it was that easy.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
What's your strategy for 2020? Do you guys have one? Is like I know you're going to a sanctional in January. Is that like that's the focus? Like your taper, you go like that's the thing right now?
Yeah. So the Open, I'm definitely going to do the Open, and I'm going to give it my absolute all.
Yes.
I can't promise anything spectacular, but I can guarantee you that I'll be fitter by 20.5 than I was 20.1.
Yeah. Yes.
Now,
I can't
moving
guarantee
forward,
that.
after the Open's done, there's a sanctioned event here in Cookville at CrossFit Mayhem, and I believe it's called the Mayhem Classic. So I'm going to compete at that competition, which is going to be really cool because I have never competed in a competition and been able to go home to my own bed before.
Wow, yeah, that's cool.
That's going to be really cool. Then my next one, I'm going to try and go to Waterpalooza in Miami at the end of February.
Uh-huh.
And then I really want to go and do Rogue again.
Yeah.
They put on a really great show this year, and that's definitely something that I really, really want to go and do again. That's kind of like what my season will look like.
Uh-huh.
You didn't really get to ask your question though. Was your question before, like what is it that I do in order to kind of prep myself for the Open, or?
No,
I think we kind of
I just wanted to know. Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm used to my brother interrupting me all the time, so I've just learned how to do it.
It's
Siblings,
why
right?
people love the podcast.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to know.
Goodness,
Wait, what was that?
I was just gonna say, if my sisters and I did a podcast, goodness gracious, like I don't even know if anyone would want to listen.
Just everybody screaming at each other.
Yeah.
It would be trouble.
Our podcast is literally just like talking to people and then trying to make fun of each other as much as possible. So
well, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, it works out well. Okay, so I had something that I wanted to talk about, and this was stemming from, I keep on bringing up Hawaii, but we were actually able to talk a lot when we were there. It stemmed from
it was incredible too.
It was, I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to go back.
But, can't wait for you to bring me.
Yeah, I'll bring you next time.
Yeah.
But so we had a conversation, we were sitting at the dinner table, and we somehow it got brought up your first time at regionals, or I'm not sure.
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
You're gonna bring this up.
Well, I think that there could be some good to come out of it. I'm not just doing it to air out any dirty laundry or anything like that. But so Kayla was there as well, and she does the commentating or like the after workout interviews right down in Australia. Yeah. And I think was it your first regional that year, or was
it was?
Okay, so it was your first regional, and it was right after you had won your first. Was it you won your first workout, right, or the first heat?
Yes, it was. I was in one of the heats. I wasn't in the last heat, but it was my very first workout win at regionals, and for me, I was just blown away. Like that was a huge accomplishment.
So it's crazy because half of her head is shaved, right? And it was just like, and then Kayla has purple hair. It was just crazy looking, but I remember,
oh my gosh.
I remember. So they were like watching it. James Newbeer was there. Everyone was just laughing, right? But then you said you were like, yeah, my back was destroyed then, and I remember like I had never heard that. Ever that you were struggling with that, like a major like injury that was really being annoying and you were really struggling with it.
Yeah.
And I think that with so many people, like in CrossFit, but just in fitness in general, a lot of us will see these, these athletes. I mean, you're literally at the tip top of the sport, but even any games athlete, we're like, man, they don't get hurt or they don't deal with injuries. They don't deal with this stuff. And I always feel like I'm struggling with this stuff.
If I only didn't have any injuries, I would be as...
Yeah, that's why I'm not at the games.
That's why, yeah.
It's this back of mine. But but you were saying like your back was actually like wrecked, right? At that regional.
Yeah.
And you gave us...
So, like...
You gave us like a story about, or your recommendations, like if you're a games level athlete, how you would recover from it. And if you were a, just regular Joe CrossFitter, how you would recover from it. So if you could recount that story, that'd be great. But also if you could explain what was going on with your back and just the backstory of that. Cause I think I remember when I was listening, I was very interested. So I think that, people listening would love to hear that story.
Okay. Yeah. So basically what happened was I just want to make something clear. I have always been very competitive, even growing up through the various amount of sports that my parents had me in. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that the reason I go to the gym every single day is just so that I can feel that adrenaline and experience on a regular basis the competition, because the energy that gives me is just, it's like a drug in a way, because it really is just something that makes me feel just so happy and so excited. I honestly, it's kind of like when people ask like, oh, why do you ask extremists, why do you want to jump off a cliff? Well, like that adrenaline, that feeling, they love it so much. It's really addicting. So when I started CrossFit, one thing I love the challenges that it provided me, but also like the friendships that it also provided. And I got so addicted, I started going to the gym, to the CrossFit gym twice a day. And I started noticing how much I was improving. And before I knew it, I was competing and doing local competitions. I never had the desire to go to regionals or the games. Those local competitions were enough to give me that satisfaction that I was really looking for. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I entered into my first individual competition, which was probably about 9 months after I had started had started CrossFit. And out of that competition, I got in contact with a weightlifting coach called Miles Weidel, and he's very popular in Australia and very well known because he's also worked with a lot of Olympic weightlifters that have gone to the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. And he approached me and said, your weightlifting technique is terrible, but you are very strong. I really want to help you out here. And I was like, excellent. Weightlifting was my worst movement in CrossFit when I very first started. And so it was definitely something that I needed to improve on. Well, the fact that Miles even, went out of his way to approach myself and Shane, that to me was just, you could tell that he was such a genuine and caring person, that he really wanted to help people get better. And he loved the sport of weightlifting so much that he really wanted to kind of capitalize on CrossFit by, introducing weightlifting to people and then, kind of showing them the actual traditional weightlifting style. So from there, he actually said to me, which I thought he was absolutely crazy. He goes, if you could work really hard, I can guarantee that you will make the Olympics if you focus on your weightlifting. Wow. And I initially, when he said that, I was like, who is this guy? What is he trying to do? Trying to get me all excited. And he doesn't even know me from a bar of soap. Why would he believe in me and make such an accusation like that? Because that's not something to take lightly, right? Yeah. Anyway, so when he did that, like I could tell he was dead serious. And if he was willing to put in the time and energy into me, well, I was 100% willing to put the time and effort into potentially making the Olympics. So I literally went and like just trained as hard as I could every single day. And I overloaded my back where I just didn't listen to my body. And I really was, I guess, well, I don't know what the correct terminology was, but basically I was so young and so fresh to the sport that I was too scared to tell Shane, hey, like my back hurts because, I think I've been, back squatting a little bit too much. And we ended up finding out that I just overloaded my back so far. But, if I just simply had a rest and, took some time to help with recovering, it wouldn't have been as bad as what it had been.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time, it was probably so that was like November 2014. Well, the Open was just around the corner, and of course I was going to do the Open because that's what everyone did in my CrossFit gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually managed to make regionals through that. So I had the plan of actually taking a couple of weeks off after the Open, but I just made regionals. I wasn't going to let my gym down. So I kept training with this back injury. And I didn't even really kind of communicate that with Shane or Miles. I just kind of kept that quiet and thought, you know what, in good time it will subside and I won't have to worry about it. Well, by the time I got to regionals, I just trained and trained and trained and was really kind of ignoring how my body was, what my body was telling me, to the point where that particular workout I came first in, I struggled walking off the field. Wow. It was crazy. Like when the adrenaline started to die down, I needed Shane to actually like kind of help me walk off to the side. And I also didn't want to make a big deal. So, I was trying to pretend that, everything was all okay. But no, like I was really, putting my body or my back specifically under a lot of strain. And so obviously Shane and Miles found out that I had a bad back, and they were like, okay, like how long has this been going on for? And I was like, well, it's probably been going on for about 4 months now. And I was in so much trouble. They were not happy. I think, they were just obviously disappointed that, they felt like I wasn't comfortable enough to actually be open and honest with them and say, like, look, I've got a sore back. So they literally said, okay, there is no more training for you, and we are going to have like some time off. And I didn't know what that meant. So I had to go to a physio down in Brisbane, which was a 6-hour drive south of where I was living.
Jeez.
And I needed to pretty much I was basically going down there to get treatment and try and figure out what was happening. And I had to have like a couple of MRIs to figure out, had I done some really bad damage, or, was this something that I could kind of just rest for 2 weeks and then overcome and then, get back into training. And it turned out that I had a compressed bruised bone in my lower back. And to me, I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But the physio told me that you need to not like do anything for the next 4 months. And
oh my gosh.
I cried.
Wow.
I was like,
yeah,
I was just obsessed. Like I was so obsessed with the sport and what it had started meaning to me that I just couldn't believe that I had let myself get that far. And so, I basically, I couldn't sit down watching TV. I had to lay down. Like my back was in a position where I was not allowed to use rollers or anything. I couldn't run. Every time that I would walk, I'd have to just take it slow. Like everything that, you typically, going and bending up and picking up your socks from the floor, like I wasn't allowed to even bend over. That's how severe, like I had to really take it. And in that time, like I definitely still surrounded myself with the CrossFit gym and the members, and I did a lot of research on how can you improve on your recovery when it comes to a back injury and all that kind of thing, and it made me realize that when you have an injury, you can make your life so much easier if you just listen to your body from the very beginning and take the time to rest and recover, and you'll be back in the gym in no time. Whereas when I did it, I was so stubborn that I didn't want to, I didn't want to not be able to go into the gym for a week. So that cost me 4 months of not being able to go in and work out. And every time I think of that, I always just think like, how silly or stubborn were you, Tia, where you could have completely avoided that whole thing. So after the 4 months, in that time, I just took it easy. So I couldn't actually walk the dogs with the lead, because if they jolted me, I could have potentially hurt my back even more. Jeez. So, we would take the dogs out. I really had to be quite careful on what it was I did. And after 4 months, I went and I would have regular checkups with the physio. But after the 4 months, my physio kind of gave me the all clear, and he goes, okay, so you're still not going to pick up a barbell, you're not going to do any sort of exercise, but you will do these rehab movements, which were kind of like Pilates, but a little bit more basic. And so every day, 3 times a day, I would do these exercises with resistance bands. And, that made me happy, because I was able to actually, move. I felt a part of the gym again.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I really, really enjoyed. And so from there, what did I do? So after a month of doing those exercises, I still had to do them, but the physio kind of gave me the all clear and said, all right, you can slowly start implementing movements. I don't recommend that you do anything heavy. You just slowly build up. And it took me about, 2 months to build the confidence of lifting weights and stuff, because the last thing I wanted to do was actually, start all over again. So that was definitely something that was really, really hard.
Does that okay, so on a much less scale.
Oh gosh, here comes the comparison.
No. Like we were doing front squats one day, and it was like a 1 rep max front squat or something, and the way I moved or something, I ended up popping a rib out.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the whole day I just really couldn't breathe, and I was just this is super uncomfortable.
I am dying.
Yeah, went to the chiropractor, and they're like, oh yeah, you popped a rib out, and they popped it back in, and then they were like, it'll probably happen again sometime. And so now it's
that's fun.
And so anytime I go for heavy weight, it's in the back of my mind, I'm always don't pop a rib, please don't do that. Do you have does that knowing what happened to your back, does that cause you to be a lot more cautious and intentional with your movement? Do you have almost that phantom don't let it happen again,
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. So I don't really these days, because it's been 5 years since this has happened.
Yeah.
But when I started implementing weight and everything, it was like I was looking for the pain. I was
Yep.
looking for
Yeah.
the injury that had occurred. And, Shane actually had to give me the hard word and was like, Tia, you're fine. And, that's kind of scary, even from Shane's point of view, because, like, how do you know someone else is okay? But,
Yeah.
like, I hadn't done anything significant that was going to hurt or, make me make my back hurt again. But that is definitely something that I am always very conscious of. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's my back, my knees, my shoulders, whatever. I always listen to my body now. So if there's ever a little niggle, and what I mean by niggle is like any little tweak or, just something not feeling right, I'll always like go and get treatment on it, or I'll try and, mobilize it a little bit more, or maybe we won't do a movement that kind of irritates that particular tweak a little bit. So I'm always listening to the body. I'm always communicating with Shane. And that's definitely something that I've learned from my back issue. And so, like, there was so much that came out, like so much positive that came out of that experience because, and touch wood,
Yeah.
I haven't gone through that type of traumatic experience since. So, I really learned a lot from that. And it's definitely something that, I'm going to continuously hold on to and remember. So, yeah, it is definitely something that can you can keep reminding yourself about, but you do have to say, all right, like, let's be real here. Like, actually have this conversation with yourself, because I know that sounds a little strange, but
Yeah.
when you kind of ask yourself, all right, like, do I actually feel the pain, or is it all in my head? And you can answer yourself truthfully, because deep down, nah, I think it's all in my head right now. Because if you're really hurting, like, you'll know about it.
Yeah.
So I try and make sure that, I don't overcomplicate things. I listen to my body, and I try not to think too much about, like, I try not to look for the pain, or I try not to, create the situation and make it seem worse than what it actually is.
Yeah, it's crazy how,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, completely. It's crazy how, like, no matter pretty much any situation, you can always learn from that situation. No matter, like, if it's a positive or a negative, you can usually always learn from that. And so, like, it's obviously, like, that definitely taught you a lot. I'm curious, so, like, you're going through this rehab, you know, there's 4 months where you literally basically are doing nothing. Mentally, was there ever a time when you're like, do I want to do this anymore? Like, is CrossFit maybe just not for me? Should I maybe look for something else? Or did it just reinforce, like, no, I want to get better so I can do it?
Well, a part of me felt like there was unfinished business. And so for me, I didn't have that feeling where I was like, you know what, like, obviously this is just not meant to be. I'm just going to give up on it straight away. That said, though, whenever I could see, my friends getting together and working out, Shane getting together and working out with everyone, and I wasn't a part of that, I also kind of felt like, you know what, like, this just does not make me feel happy. And there were definitely days where I was thinking like, why do I even want to do this anymore? So, like, and I think that that's normal. Like, I really believe that you have to go through those experiences to really kind of reassure yourself that this is actually what you want, and, you actually enjoy doing this kind of thing. So, it also made me really appreciate just chilling out for a little bit as well, and looking on the bright side of things. Like, even though the 2 years prior to me finding CrossFit wasn't, I was really chilling out, but I also was doing a university degree that wasn't making me feel very happy. I wasn't where my family were or where Shane was. We were doing long distance at the time. There were so many different factors that were playing on why I was so unhappy. But when it came to CrossFit, like, I was surrounding myself with really good people that were making me feel just a lot more happier, and it made me realize that there's bigger things to life than, these tiny little petty things that I was, I guess, kind of crying over in a way. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, like it's one of those things that, like, when I went through the experience, like, and I don't know if I just am so grateful for it now that I just can't see anything but the positive side of it. But I truly believe it was one of the best things that could have happened to me, because had I not gone through that experience, who knows? Like, I could have been injured leading into 2017, and it could have potentially ruined my chances of winning the CrossFit Games,
Yeah, definitely. With this, how long have you been in Tennessee now?
So, oh my gosh. So in 2 days, it's going to officially be 12 months.
Oh, snap.
Dang. In
Yeah.
2 days, it's going to officially be my wedding.
Yep.
So we'll be
it's true.
celebrating.
Oh,
You just had to bring that up.
That's
I was-
amazing.
Yeah, I was just celebrating different ways. This
the best
year, what would you say?
Also, my invitation must have been caught in the caught up in the mail somewhere.
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
Still
about
waiting
that.
for it.
We were wondering where your RSVP was. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
weird.
it's so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were the only CrossFit Games athlete I invited. So strange. No, okay, so what would you say has been the biggest, not change, because everything's changed, but what's the biggest thing you've learned this year being in Cookeville, whether it be about you, relationships, what mindset, whatever? Like, what would you say the biggest thing you've learned this year has been?
This year, and it's kind of crazy, but we've really learnt to just slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds so bizarre.
That is so interesting.
But everyone here in Cookeville has, like, literally will stop in the middle of the road if they see someone that they know walking by, and will be like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And when I first got here, all I was thinking is like, excuse me, like, we need to go. Like, why are you stopped in the middle of the road? But, like, it really made me think, like, wow, like, how nice is that? And, man, like, people here in Cookeville are really friendly. And I'm not saying that people back home in Australia aren't. I'm just saying that I think that we get so caught up in our own lives every single day that we forget that, we forget to be really chilled out and be present within our own lives and the people that are around us. And that's something that I've really appreciated and kind of taken on board a little bit more ever since living here in Cookeville.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because like Australia's typically known to be chill. And the United States are the, come on, let's go, let's move. And so that's actually a very interesting paradox, if you will.
Okay, so I have...
It does. It makes me, I can't believe it either, because I thought we lived in a really chilled area, but not as chilled as Cookeville.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's crazy with America. I mean, with just how big it is and how many different areas there are. Like, the Midwest is known for being more polite, but then, like, you go to, like, New York or, like, California, it's not like that.
No.
So it is interesting. So one thing that I am really, really interested in, and something that, like, I remember when I watched I think the first documentary I saw was the 2016 one.
Gosh.
I'm not sure.
No, don't bring that up.
Well, the thing is like, at the time it was like, man, that's like, you could see. So for the people that haven't seen the documentary, like, you were in first place, and then there was the handstand walk thing coming up, right? And there was like a workout coming up, and you were just saying like, oh, I'm not good at handstand walks. Like, your mindset was not very good at that moment.
So I don't know if I was actually in first place.
Oh, okay.
I'm not very familiar with that. It could be. I have to go and have a look, but I think there definitely were times when, like throughout that weekend, where I came across quite negative through the video. But I feel like I need to explain myself.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But you continue, and then I'll kind of explain kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. So
what happens on video is 100% real. Okay, Tia?
Yeah, right. It's so real.
So the way that it's framed is that, you know, like you have this negative mindset or whatever, but then we go to the next 3 years, and that is obviously that it seems has been erased. You know, like it really seems like when I look at you, I see someone that's very confident in their skills, and they know what maybe their weaknesses are. They're not afraid to work on them, but they don't like let it bother them, or you know what I mean? So I'm just curious as to like how that changed, because at least from what we saw as people that watched the documentary, there seems to be this huge shift, you know?
Yeah. No, and I think that that's very true. You know, it's definitely something that has been highlighted for sure. However, so throughout that documentary, I want to explain myself, because that documentary really hurt me, because when I watched that, it was the first time that I'd actually realized how I came across. And I was obviously very present, and the directors of the film had edited the video to make me sound more negative than what I originally was. That said, you know, I will take full responsibility. Those words did come out of my mouth. You know, we have it on camera. But I think that it was that exaggerated on how negative I actually was, and there were certain situations that were definitely kind of how do I explain it? Are you guys there?
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah. No.
We just don't want to
Something
interrupt you.
No. For some reason my phone went crazy.
Oh.
Anyway, so there was a couple of situations that didn't actually play out the way that it had been edited. And so I found that was, you know, I actually said to my family when it came out that they are not to watch it, because I was so ashamed of how I came across throughout that documentary. And in my eyes, you know, my parents didn't bring me up to be someone like that. And so I was so disappointed in the way I'd come across that all I thought was, oh, I'm totally going to disappoint my family, because they know that that's not what I'm like. Now, all that said, when it came to the 2015 games, I was so shocked to come second and stand up on that podium, and to be the first Australian to do that. You know, that was definitely something that was quite incredible, and something that I just was over the moon excited about. But I couldn't help but think, and you know, it was very clear that everyone else thought it as well, that, you know, maybe I had only just come second because a lot of the top competitors that were favorites of podiuming got heat stroke after doing Murph. So there was a bunch of all these kind of accusations and everything, and I had no desire to keep going to the CrossFit Games after 2015.
Oh wow!
But that changed everything when I came second.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, well, I have to go back to the CrossFit Games again and go to the Olympics, because I need to prove not only to myself but to the rest of the world that I deserve to have come second or better. Anyway, so when it came to the 2016, you know, like, I really didn't care to win. And I know that may sound strange to some people, but in my eyes, just being a part and being at the CrossFit Games was a win for me. And my goal was simply to just come second or better. And people may think that that may be weak, or, you know, they don't understand that train of thought. But, you know, at the end of the day, they were my goals, and that's all I cared about, you know. To me, winning a gold medal wasn't everything. And I definitely wasn't defined by a gold medal. So when I came second again, I was really happy. But for some reason, and it really kind of took me by surprise, but my emotion and the way I felt by coming second again, I felt so unhappy because I was just quite disappointed in coming second and my performances, and it was like there were emotions that I couldn't really explain, because as far as I was concerned, I did what I set out to do. And over the time after the CrossFit Games and after the Olympics, I had some time to think, and I started to realize, like, no, wow, you know, like, obviously this CrossFit Games means more to me than what I originally thought it did. You know, like, I'm going to actually go back into the gym and train to win it. And I knew that, you know, at the end of the day, placings doesn't matter. Even though we talk about, you know, who came first, second, third, you know, whatever. But I would look back on my 2016 performance, and there was so many mistakes that I made. I was really upset on you know, making those mistakes, and I knew that I could have done better. So had I not made those mistakes, I couldn't help but think, like, would I have won the CrossFit Games? So when it came to the 2017 season, I wasn't going to, you know, just go there to participate or be a part of the CrossFit Games anymore. Like, I was actually going there to win it. And really, I was going to look back on my past performances and really learn from those experiences that I had experienced. And I wanted to develop as an athlete and as a person and see how good I could really do. And if that got me a gold medal, awesome. I wanted, at the end of the weekend in 2017, I wanted to walk away knowing that I performed at my absolute best. And, you know, I still walked away, you know, I was so happy that I came first, but I still walked away with just a little unsatisfaction because there was a few little mistakes that I'd made along the way, which obviously motivated me leading into 2018 season. And I'm a bit of I'm my harshest critic at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But you know, even I could look back on the 2019 season, and I you know, a lot of people would think that was a very successful campaign, and I was very happy and proud of that. But I learnt so much from that again, and that's going to motivate me for the next season because I want to go back and be better than what I was last season. So I never ever really thought of myself, or I never looked at myself as being mentally weak, because at the end of the day, like, how can you be mentally weak and make the CrossFit Games in the first place?
That's true.
You know, like,
yeah,
that to me is something that you're not mentally weak if you can't do that. Maybe there's something missing, yes, and that something missing was just me figuring out what it was that I really wanted, or, you know, really kind of, I guess, embracing and wanting to be a part of this journey. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting thing. And looking back at that documentary, I look back at that and think, wow, you know, you can be interpreted so differently to what you thought you come across. And it was a huge eye-opener. And it's just definitely made me aware of, you know, how media can portray you at times. And so, you know, I just never want to ever let the media dictate who I am as a person, because, yeah, like, you know, I'm just someone trying to, you know, give it a go and do my best and learn from my mistakes along the way. And, you know, if I can inspire people throughout my journey, well, then, you know, I'm doing exactly what I set out to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have to worry with us because there's no editing on the podcast. So we're not gonna.
No, I don't think I'm not worried about you guys. No,
No, but
that's amazing, though.
I'm actually really.
The podcast just starts off and Tia's like, I hate everyone. Nope,
Really?
that was the podcast.
Awkward. That's amazing.
No, but I'm really glad that I asked that question because I would have never known that. It is crazy how you can get completely misconstrued or portrayed a different way. Like if someone wants a certain narrative, they can probably get that if they, especially like, I mean, at the games, like I don't know exactly what it's like, but you're finishing these crazy workouts. You've been there for a few days. They're following you around with cameras, asking you a bunch of questions. Like you probably
your entire year leads up to 3 days of
and now
5 days, whatever.
Knowing you and being able to have more conversations with you, like you have like this really dry sense of humor. You can be pretty sarcastic, and I like that, and like, it's very, very funny. But like if you're that way on camera and they edit it a certain way, it can make you look like anybody look like a complete jerk if they don't actually know you as a person. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. So,
no, and that was what was so shocking because I'd make sarcastic jokes and people at the time were laughing, but it did not come like that. I was crying throughout that documentary because I was just so embarrassed.
Yeah, and I've actually had conversations with a couple of different, I don't want to bring up anyone's names, but like a couple different people that have been portrayed in the documentaries that have had very similar experiences. They're like, I was surprised. They were like, when I watched it, one of my friends, they were saying that their family literally was like, don't watch the documentary. And they were one of the athletes that were in it. Like, you shouldn't watch it. Like, you're not going to like any of the things that they show about you. And I'm just like, I couldn't even imagine what that would be like. Cause you guys don't really even see it until it's out, right? It's not like they screen it and they're like, what do you think of this?
No,
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. So that was, and don't get me wrong, I understand that the creators are trying to create a story, but they have to understand that, that story can really jeopardize someone's career and also, hurt the individual. Shane and I, we every now and then we'll go to different places around the world and we'll do like little workshops, like train with Tia workshops where Shane will coach, I'll get to train with everyone. And it's just a really fun time. And one of the first ones that I ever did, I actually had a couple come up to me and said, hey Tia, like it's really nice to actually meet you in person because we watched your documentary. And by the way, this was after I won, so a lot had changed. But they're like, we watched the documentary in 2016, and when we seen that, we thought we will never ever go to something that Tia has to offer because we don't ever want to learn anything from her. She's so negative. And I was like so taken back by that. Like it hurt so much. But, they're like, I'm so glad that we've seen you in person because like you're nothing like that. And it's crazy to think that that's something that we actually thought, you were like. And for me, all I could think was like, I just felt sick. I could not believe that, people out there and like kids as well are out there and they're thinking, oh man, like it's just one of those things.
It is crazy. So you brought up, this is something that I wanted to talk about as well with Shane. Like he'll go with you and he'll do the coaching, and he does all your coaching now, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, and he's always done that ever since the beginning. He was the one that I actually said, like for my very first individual comp, I was like, hey Shane, like, of course I'm going to do like the class workouts, but I need to do extras so that when I go to this competition in September, I'm not going to look like someone that is like an amateur. So can you help me? And he would like YouTube how to do rope climbs and just things like that. It's crazy. And then obviously throughout our journey, Am I there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're here.
Oh, and just like throughout the journey, we've been able to come across like specialized coaches that have helped and guided us along the way. And Shane's just loved to learn from them. And yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much answered the question I was gonna ask. I was like, well, when did that start? So that's pretty cool that you and him kind of just grew together as far as like you as an athlete, him as a coach, and now he's like people look up to Shane. And they're like, I want to be where he's at, you know. And then obviously there's people that look up to you and like I want to be where T is at. People look up to Shane. They're like, I want to be a coach like him, or I want to learn how to program like he does, and stuff like that. So I think that's a really cool little story. You know, I really enjoy, and you guys together are very fun. Like we
yeah, so we definitely have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if like you were talking about the train with Tia, like if there's someone listening to this, and there's one that's in your area, you should go to it because you will have a good time for sure. Like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've taken, I was telling you on Instagram, I've taken a couple of the things like the lifting EMOMs and stuff like that, and I've been putting that in my training just because they're pretty fun.
Yeah.
They're like fun to do, and they're not too like intense, and it's just like working on technique and stuff like that. So I've really been enjoying that. And so yeah, but I mean I think that's where
good. I'm so pleased.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really fun. But yeah, we just wanted to say thank you so much. We don't want to take up too much of your time. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. That was that interview. You are very good at telling stories. So that was like one of I think my favorite interview I've ever done. That was a lot of fun.
That's hilarious. Shane would definitely. We'll have to get Shane on next time, but he's definitely one that would be like, "Oh, I'm so sick of hearing her voice."
That's how couples are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, no, it's so healthy. But no, thanks so much for having us, guys, and it was really great. We'll definitely have to do it again soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you for being on. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.